Thank you, each one of you, for coming. We're very excited. This is the first meeting of the St. Louis for Safe Technology group that is formed because of our concern about 5G. We are a small group. We have come together to give this presentation, but also we want to make it a conversation. So we're all learning. This is informational. We have, in the meantime, written 9 of our state representatives in Jeff City and Washington, D.C. over concern, and we have received a few responses, but we really won't get into that today. I want to just very briefly tell you what the agenda will be. Mr. Daryl Barker will give us a short presentation about basic information on 5G, so we'll be on the same page. Daryl has worked in technology for over 30 years. He has a master's degree from the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, has worked in the film and television industry before returning to St. Louis. Daryl is now a concerned parent and citizen of Kirkwood. In 2012, he discovered that Wi-Fi poses a possible health risk, and after further investigation realized that most, if not all, currently used communication frequencies have been scientifically proven to cause adverse health effects. Daryl's concern was primarily about Wi-Fi in schools and how kids are exposed 24/7 to a form of microwave radiation that few people understand. He has studied the subject for over 6 years now, and with the latest push by the wireless industry to force 5G into our lives, he is now concerned more than ever about the impact 5G poses on human health. After his presentation, Sheila Mitchell, founder of the Adam Mitchell Foundation for Non-Toxic Cures Research and Justice, will introduce Dr. Raymond Francis, who we will be communicating with, as you know, by Skype. After his presentation, which will last about 40 minutes, we will have a question and answer period with Dr. Francis, opportunity to ask him all your questions. And after that, we will have an extended period of questions and answers, and possibly sharing personal experiences and information we have learned on this journey. At around that time, Pat Tocco will share some notes about staying connected, as we do want to stay connected with you, and we actually have now an email address. And awareness is growing, so this is good. So welcome, and thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. This is a really great thing to see. After 6 years of living in Kirkwood and trying to address the subject with the city officials and the school district, it's been a very frustrating experience for me. But now, this is a great sign. And maybe it's taken 5G to bring things to the forefront so people will pay attention. Because 5G, as it stands, is a technology that's never been safety tested for human exposure. Okay? And the industry is planning to put it in neighborhoods, thousands and millions of antennas through neighborhoods throughout the United States and actually around the world. It's a large initiative by the telecommunications industry to bump up what they call, or they were calling it bumping up, service and reception and all kinds of things that you will get from wireless communications in the form of something that's faster. And also, it also connects with more devices. So 5G being what it is, it's being touted as a kind of a solution to lots of things, but this is based on the idea that technology is a solution to lots of things. And it's not always a solution. I worked in technology for 30 years in various places here in St. Louis as well as in Los Angeles. And I can tell you the technology does have its issues. So the technology industry is bringing this to us, and they're doing it with a bit of a heavy hand. And the reason I say this is because, in 1996, and let me go ahead here. I'm going to just get into my PowerPoint because I'm jumping ahead a little bit. The 1996 Telecom Act. In case you don't know, the Telecommunications Act was signed by President Bill Clinton in '96, which basically removed authority from city officials and municipalities to say no to cell tower placement throughout the United States. This has been hanging people up ever since '96, because a lot of people who have discovered that cell phones, for instance, not cell phones, but the towers, cause health issues, and they take them to their city officials, the city officials just say, our hands are tied, there's nothing we can do because of the Telecom Act. So what the Telecom Act initially, I mean, allegedly was to help improve the business model and make telecommunications more prevalent and easier to access, and by putting towers in so many more places, which it did. Okay, so now you cell towers everywhere in this guise of flagpoles, and they're placed on top of apartment buildings. They're over hospitals. They're on regular cell phone poles that you're familiar with. So the act, what it does and what it did was it removed the ability. Hello? Okay. It removed the ability for people, when they find that there are adverse health effects, to say, take this away, please. People have gone to the cities, their own city councils. They ask them. I've seen so many videos of people in front of city councils. The city councils always say, there's nothing we can do about it. I have been told this too. And the reason why, my most recent experience is that over in Kirkwood, they placed a 5G pole, which is the coming 5G, right next to an elementary school where my son was attending, okay? And I got in touch with Verizon, who installed the pole with the help of the city of Kirkwood. The electrical director of the city of Kirkwood informed me that they basically had no power to say where these were placed. I asked them, why did you put a cell phone tower right next to the school? It's across the street. It's like right out across this parking lot, where that house is. That's the distance it is. Now, with the studies that have been established that cell phone towers themselves have increased cancer in those places where people live, I was alarmed that this happened. And so I went to the board, I went to the school board, I went to the city council, all mute. I mean, everyone just says, there's nothing we can do about it, or, thank you for your concern. Safety is our first priority, and I've heard that from Kirkwood School District a million times, and it's just very hard to believe when they don't want to address things. So you have a pole right next to a school. This act is what has removed our ability to do anything about this. Okay, that was where I was. Let me just jump backwards real quick. So our mission statement for this group, we're a new group, we just formed, and part of the reason why we got formed is partly thanks to the Webster Kirkwood Times and Don Corrigan, who they ran letters that we wrote to the paper, okay? They expressed our views about our concerns about wireless technology going in, whether it's 5G or Wi-Fi, but primarily it's 5G, because this has started to happen already. I don't know about Webster Groves, I don't live here, I live in Kirkwood, but I can tell you they placed approximately 20 to 30 5G poles already into the city at places right out at the end of your driveway, okay? This is a cell phone tower, and I know this is true. I'm not exaggerating, because I have a meter, and it measures the radiation levels. And the same amount of radiation is coming out of a small pole that's right across the street as it is on top of a big water tank. It's the same amount of the level of radiation, okay? So, because we wrote our views and we got them into the paper, we came together, we got in touch, and then we formed this group. So here we are. This is our mission statement: to bring to the public timely, accurate, and relevant factual information regarding wireless technology and its impact on the public health, as well as promote solutions aimed at improving home, work, school, and all publicly accessible indoor and outdoor environments. Now that's all inclusive, because wireless technology is everywhere. It's in your home, it's in schools, it's in hospitals, and it's in the places where it can really do damage. And I'm specifically talking about nursing homes, hospitals, primary schools, elementary schools, kindergartens. So when I'm taking this subject to people in Kirkwood, I've been looked at like the deer in the headlights kind of thing. The people don't know what I'm talking about. When I brought this to the Kirkwood School District in 2012, they didn't know what I was talking about. Wi-Fi, when it's put into the school, really, everyone thinks the more power the better. We need a great signal. We want to do this, and it gives everyone mobility. All the kids got iPads in Kirkwood schools. Great, great, great. Okay, they have the latest technology. But what they didn't know was that an iPad and a cell phone, they're all wireless transmitters and receivers, okay? They do both. So what happens is it's constantly communicating, if it's turned on, to a device such as a router, which is a wireless access point that sits on the ceiling, or the local device in the room. So constant exposures. What you don't know can hurt you. And this is true because people now, 20 years after they've been using cell phones, they've gotten glioblastoma multiforme, which is brain cancer, severe, very serious kind of brain cancer. You can very seldom survive from this brain cancer. John McCain was one example. He died from the same kind of cancer. Beau Biden, who's the son of Joe Biden, okay? Lots of people who have been documented where this has happened to them. Now, is there definitive proof that the cell phone that they used caused the cancer? It's very difficult to say that this is definitive. But the issue is that through observation of use, and people say, look, I used that cell phone against my head for like 20 years, and this is right where it was, and I felt my head getting hot, and things like that. The science is in, and there is a definitive study that comes out of the National Toxicology Program, which only was published last year. Cell phones have been in use since 2000, yet they just gave us the results last year that they found that cancer in rats is conclusive from cell phone radiation, okay? And they use rats instead of people, so the rats will get cancer and not people. And I have to make that note because people criticize this report that came out of the US government study. They said, well, it doesn't apply to humans, it's rats. It doesn't apply to humans, but you don't use humans, you use rats because they're similar and they're close enough to our makeup to where they were to be used for the tests. All right. I was making the PowerPoint yesterday and last night with my son, okay, who I will tell you, I pulled him out of Kirkwood schools. And this has been a very painful experience. I took him out because the school district will not do the right thing. Now, this is the $1,000 bill, and it has a lot to do with the subject. After 6 years, I've come to the conclusion that money, this is all about money, and it's all about making some people very rich, and the rest of us are basically just, we're going along, and a lot of us love the technology, and they love it, and we think it's great, and it is very helpful. 911, you're out in the car, whatever. But you have to know how to use this technology safely, and no one is being told. The schools are not being told, the school children are not being told, we are not being told. When you buy a cell phone, you can dig down into the fine print in the legal area of your cell phone and find they say, do not hold this phone no closer than 7 millimeters from your head or you will exceed the safety limits that the FCC has stipulated. So what they say is basically, no one has ever told you this in the open, you have to dig for this tiny print inside a cell phone. But if you push it against your head, you can exceed the safety limit. And that's what's been happening to people. Money. Okay. Now, I'm supposed to be 6 more minutes. I had a lot to go through, but I'm gonna get the good stuff, the important things. I'm gonna fly through these slides, okay? Cell phones released to the public despite health warnings. Back in 1993, when all this was just ramping up, George Carlo was a scientist who was hired by the wireless industry to do a study of cell phone exposure and if there was a danger. He found that there was. He told the wireless industry and they ignored him. And they basically pushed him off to the side, and that is what happened. And so, back in 99, George Carlo gave a presentation to AT&T and all the other big telecoms, and he told people this, and they just brushed him off. And that was the end of that. They didn't like what they heard from their own scientists. So, this is how the wireless industry's been operating. They've been wargaming the science, and this was in a memo that Motorola, that was actually leaked from Motorola, when Henry Lai, there was Dr. Henry Lai, I'll just read this. 1995, Motorola Company decided to wargame the science when bioengineer researchers at University of Washington, Dr. Henry Lai and Dr. Narendra Singh, discovered and published that cell phone frequencies damage DNA in the brain and cells of laboratory rats. So then Motorola initiated a disinformation campaign to discredit their findings, and they even tried to fire them. They built a tremendous campaign to discredit these scientists who found this information, and they weren't even digging for it. They were working on a radar project for the military, and they discovered that cell phone frequencies actually damaged the DNA in rats. Well, the wireless industry just went full gear and basically tried to bury everything that they had done, and then it's been that way ever since. Not one serious US government study has been funded to study this issue, except that the NTP study that was released last year. They tried to get it going in 1999, and it took all this time until 2018 for them to release the information. That they have conclusively shown clear evidence that cell phone radiation causes cancer. It's called schwannomas. It's a schwannoma in the heart and in the brain of the rats that were studied. And again, this came out last year. And so when it reaches the public, there's all these contradictory reports saying, oh, the NTP study, you can't pay attention to that, they used rats. Give me a break, people. Responsible science is being ignored. The BioInitiative report, which is a group of scientists, 29 scientists from 10 countries. They put together a great report that covered every facet, all the health risks, the recommendations, the studies. They actually have stated there are 1,800 scientific studies that show adverse health effects from wireless radiation. And yet, they have been pushed to the side and buried by the wireless industry. No, this is total irresponsibility on the part of an industry who is just interested in making money. The industry knows, yes they do, and I've got just a few more minutes, so I'm going to see what I can get through here. This is one key thing. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. And we all know that people, the wireless industry makes great commercials, right? All these young folks, right? Young kids dancing and having a great time with their cell phone. It's very, attractive, and they do a great job, and it makes it look like life is wonderful with your cell phone. Well, part of the reason why, all this has happened is, and that there's been no pushback from Congress, is that 535 members of Congress have accepted money, campaign contributions from the wireless industry. There are a lot of effects, okay, of wireless radiation, okay, and I'm not going to go through them, but as you can see, they're both acute and they're chronic. They can happen immediately, or they can happen over a period of time. From damaged sperm, for if you hold a laptop in your lap, genotoxicity, carcinogenicity, DNA damage, melatonin reduction, loss of sleep, headaches, blood-brain barrier leakage, which is especially bad for kids, because if that happens, you are really dealing with, you're harming the child in a way that may not be irreversible. Now, I'm not going to go into the various things because we only got a couple minutes left, but for the introduction before we see Dr. Francis. And I introduce his introducer, Sheila. There's lots of types of radio and microwave radiation, and one thing that people don't know is that the microwave radiation that's used in Wi-Fi is the exact same frequency that's used in a microwave oven. So imagine if you put yourself into a microwave oven and turn it on low and just stay in there for the next 24 hours. What do you think you're going to feel like? Well, that's what Wi-Fi is, exactly the same frequency, it's exactly the same technology, okay? So basically, you've got all this wireless technology put into baby monitors, camera systems, smart meters. Smart meters are a big issue because some of the letters that were sent into the Webster Times cover smart meters, and people have been harmed by those. People have been fighting them around the country for 10 years, and the industry, the utility industry, just keeps pushing back. And it's got to be related to money. I cannot understand why people do not come to the common sense of saying people are being harmed. Let's stop and wait a minute. What's going on here? There's none of it. None of that ever happens. It's just like, no, you're okay, and it's all denial, totally denial. There's a different frequency. So then we go to 5G. Now, the thing about 5G is you're talking roughly 28 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. We are working in a spectrum of radio frequency that has never been put upon the human race, insects, animals, or anything like that. There is also the idea, thanks to Elon Musk and his cooperation, I guess, with the government, of their thinking about putting 5G into satellites which will orbit the planet and just downpour on the planet so everyone can have access to 5G. It's unbelievable. But this is a new frequency which has never been safety tested, and they want everybody to adopt it. Just take it and just accept it because the industry is right. They know all. I don't think so. It's all about money. They don't care. I got this off the internet yesterday. American cell phone carriers are terrible, and 5G isn't magically going to save us. There are a lot of people who have the opinion that cell phone service is mediocre, and the cell phone industry is thinking that they're going to recreate the cell phone industry by using 5G, and it's going to make everyone happy. There are some people who don't agree with that. I'm going to finish up, okay? Okay. So the last thing I want to mention is that, well, we've got 5G, which is connected to a thing called the Internet of Things, and it's all your devices. Refrigerator, stove, toaster, phone, whatever you have in your house. The plan is to increase industry and sell more products by putting transmitters, 5G transmitters, into every device that you're going to buy in the future, so it can talk to the company and give the company all your information and so you can have better service. That is the concept behind the development, and it's just like I'm not doing that. Sorry. Deployment everywhere. Why so many? Well, because they think that you need to put these throughout neighborhoods so they'll reach your devices. That's the excuse and that's the argument. Even though I will tell you that these 5G towers can reach up to 3,000 feet transmission distance, yet they're saying they have to be put every few hundred feet, which in my opinion is a con. This is the last slide before we see Dr. Francis and introduce Sheila. So when you're looking at 5G antenna, they come in different shapes and forms. They can look like that, like the bar, like a gold bar that's white. They can look like a cylinder on top of a pole. It can be a black cylinder on top of a pole like we have at Kirkwood. Then they distribute it around Kirkwood. They're on Manchester Road. And then you can't really see this very good because the lights are on, but on the bottom picture, it shows an antenna that's distributing 5G radiation. And what it does is it uses its focused beams, which are aimed at your device, okay, by a thing called phased array, multiple antennas focusing a beam, as opposed to what's on the left, which is the current way of distributing radiation. You have an antenna, it goes out in a concentric circle and dissipates with distance. That's how the current radiation system works for antenna, but not 5G. It's a pinpoint kind of device that's going to be looking for your device, no matter, and then if you're in the way, if someone's between you and the device, they get like a laser beam right through them, okay? So I'm gonna finish up here, and I think it's about time to introduce Sheila Mitchell, who is going to introduce our guest speaker. So Sheila Mitchell is a member of our group, and she is a producer and director. She produced and directed To the Moon and Back, 2 parts, and The View from Space in a CD set with her son, Adam Mitchell. And she is the wife of Edgar Mitchell, who was one of the men who walked on the moon, and this is why she was involved in the production of these videos. Oprah interviewed Sheila, and she's been honored to be on the SAG nominating committee, and SAG is Screen Actors Guild in Hollywood, and twice. And she lives in St. Louis and Los Angeles and Las Vegas. She gets around in Montecito, California. So she is, she's a great part of this effort, and she has helped make it possible for us to have Dr. Francis tonight. So I'd like to introduce Sheila, if you would come up to the podium.
We are so fortunate to have the whole group. Daryl, he's an extraordinary man and fascinating. I have interviewed many, many fascinating people in my life. By a show of hands, how many people feel like we should do a documentary and a major motion picture from St. Louis about all of this? Yeah. Yes. Well, sign up on the volunteer sheet and help us make this vision a reality. We really need your help. This is a sacred community to me. My eldest son was born in Richmond Heights at St. Mary's Health Center in 1970, and I worked at St. Mary's Health Center in public relations. I love St. Louis and Richmond Heights, and now I am more and more in love with Webster and Kirkwood. We are in the show me state, right? So show me the science, right? Isn't that what we need to demand? That's what our documentary and our major motion picture could definitely be titled. We are from the show me state, and we are not going to be snowed. You can follow the money all you want, but not in Missouri. So I'm going to try to hurry. I've been thinking for days what I wanted to say to all of you. I wanted to ask all of you that I've stopped at Whole Foods or on the street to please stand up and thank you for showing up. It means so much to all of us. Now, how did I get involved with this group? I was on the telephone with Linda. Would you stand up, please? Linda Emanuel. Stand up. She's one with the wonderful flyer over there about mycoplasma. Linda has a podcast called Alternative Revelations. And I happened to be with Pat, invited to be on her show about how to save your pets' lives naturally with non-toxic ways. And I just happened to say something about, well, what are you doing later, Linda? And she said, well, I'm going to a meeting. And in my whole life, I've never invited myself to a meeting. I said, can I come to this meeting? She says, well, you have to call and ask permission. So I called Kathy, because Kathy was having the first meeting at her home. And she was so wonderful. Where's Kathy? You spoke earlier. Oh, she's watching through the camera. Wonderful, Kathy. She said, yes, Sheila, we would love to have you come to this meeting. And I have to admit that Raymond Francis has been a friend for almost 20 years. He and the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, have been begging me to be more aware of the dangers of the cell phone and of the computers. And only in retrospect recently have I realized that that is why my youngest son, Adam, who was carrying his cell phone in his front pocket through elementary school, high school, on to Florida State University Film School, and then on to LA when he was working to be a film director. That is why he got testicular cancer. There is no doubt about it to me. And then when the doctors gave him those powerful opioids, it took his mind away and his brain from being able to make positive, healthy decisions for himself. So I've been grieving the death of my precious son, and I will forever. I happen to be blessed to be friends with Bobby Kennedy Jr., and he sent me the recent memorial speech that he gave at his cousin, or his niece's memorial, and he said that his mother taught him that when you lose a loved one, there's like a hole in your heart that is there forever. But it's our responsibility to build strength around that hole and go forward. And also Caroline Kennedy, when she was here in St. Louis, I bought some of her books for my grandchildren. And I told her that my Adam had recently passed, and she said, you are forging forward, right? And she looked me right in the eyes, and I said, yes, I am. So when you think about the Kennedys and all that the family members and tragedies they've been through, winner never quits, a quitter never wins, and we learn every day the truth shall set us free. We will win this challenge. Be brave, be smart, become an activist. Everyone now must be an activist. That was something Bobby Kennedy told me when I was fortunate enough to have lunch with him out in California last year. Now, let me introduce Raymond Francis, who I consider a family member. When my son Adam was fighting for his life, it was Raymond Francis that came to his bedside even before to help and do what he could to save Adam's life. But the Oxycontin and the opioids took him so far away that it was too late. The same with my former husband, Edgar Mitchell. When Edgar said, Sheila, please help me save my life, the first person I called was Raymond Francis, and he went immediately to do his best to help save Edgar Mitchell's life. He is a family member. Now, I could go on and on about Raymond and his 5 books and all of that, but I'm going to go ahead and follow this and tell you that Raymond Francis, Dr. Raymond Francis, is an internationally recognized leader in the field of optimal health maintenance, a pioneer in transforming our failed disease care system. Sound familiar? Disease care system. He is dedicated to transforming our healthcare system into an effective healthcare system. Raymond has been cited as one of the few scientists who has achieved a breakthrough understanding of health and disease. Moonwalker and astronaut Edgar D. Mitchell, the 6th man to walk on the moon, called him a brilliant, advanced thinker and an international treasure. Hear, hear, he really is. On the cutting edge of health science, Raymond is a chemist by training, a graduate of MIT, a best-selling author and world-renowned speaker. Edgar also got his degree from MIT, and then it was an honor to introduce the two of them, and they became really great friends. Raymond has written 5 breakthrough books, including international bestseller, Never Be Sick Again. His newest book is called The Great American Health Hoax: How Our Healthcare is Surprisingly Designed to Keep Us Sick. He also wrote Never Fear Cancer Again, Never Fear Old Age Again, Never Be Overweight Again. And I recommend all of his books, and make sure after you go to his websites and learn as much about Raymond as you can. Raymond is a health advisor to 2 royal families and celebrities all over the world. He is chairman of the Project to End Disease and the president of Beyond Health International, a supplier of superior quality nutritional supplements. Yes, they are. I love his vitamins and nutrition. Like I said earlier, I consider Raymond Francis a member of my family, my extended family, and I want to bring him to St. Louis as well, like I said, with Bobby Kennedy, and Ed Begley Jr., and Dr. Davis. Where is Daryl? Dr. Davis from, what is her website?
Environmental Health Trust.
Environmental Health Trust. I really want to invite her to come with that group. So please, now I would like to introduce Dr. Raymond Francis. There he is. Hi, Raymond.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all.
Hey everybody, this is Raymond Francis, and I want to talk about the 5th generation wireless network. You know, the international rollout of 5G, 5th generation wireless network, is in progress. 5G provides faster downloads and greater connectivity and access to super high-speed internet connections. And it's going to promote everything from smart businesses to smart cities to smart highways to smart homes to self-driving cars. It sounds wonderful, but lots of scientists, including myself, are questioning the safety. 5G is rapidly rolling out without doing any safety studies. It differs from the existing cell phone networks. 5G operates at substantially higher frequencies, which we know affect human cells and tissues. And without any safety studies, anyone who tells you that 5G is safe, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, if we look to existing cell phone technology for reassurance, it's not very reassuring. Over 10,000 studies indicate that the existing wireless radio frequency systems are causing significant health problems, including life-threatening diseases like cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even mental disturbances such as depression and anxiety and increased suicidal tendencies. A German study found that cancer rates more than tripled among people living within 1,200 feet of a cell phone tower. An Israeli study found that the risk of cancer quadrupled among people living within 1,100 feet of a cell phone tower. You know, other studies have found that radiation from cell phone towers damages DNA, suppresses immune function, causes miscarriage, big problem, and numerous other health problems. An Australian study found that children living near television and FM broadcast towers developed leukemia at 3 times the rate of children living miles away. Long-term cell phone users have the highest incidence of brain cancer, usually on the side of the head where they use the cell phone. Brain cancer, salivary cancer, acoustic nerve cancer, all higher risk. Children who begin using cordless or cell phones regularly before age 20 have a more than 4-fold increase of brain tumor risk. Smart meters are another problem. Radiation from smart meters are known to negatively affect heart function. And reduced fertility is another problem. Cell phone radiation lowers sperm count, lowers sperm quality, and lowers female fertility as well. Sperm counts have already dropped below 50% of normal in every technologically advanced country. Cell phone radiation affects the way calcium ions move in the brain. This increases intracellular calcium and may be a central mechanism in causing Alzheimer's disease. Now, the telecommunications industry says 5G is the beginning of a new era. Yet, there isn't a single safety study to explore the environmental and biological implications of 5G radiation. So allowing 5G technology to be used without proving its safety is just reckless. Thank you so much for listening. Please be aware of this problem. See what you can do locally to prevent it from happening.
Do we have a question? I'm pretty sure many of us only have cell phones, unfortunately. What do you recommend? I keep mine in the hallway. I don't have it by my bedside at all, although I know people who do. What do you recommend? I don't want to put it on airplane mode because if someone would have an emergency situation, you know, it's not real likely, but it can happen. You want to be able to hear it. So what do you recommend that you do with your cell phones at night? I know we want to keep them away from us as much as possible, but at night for sleep and everything else.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Turn them off, keep them off, because when they're on, you are being irradiated. You are getting that radiation. The only way to stop it is to turn it off, turn it off. And then, you know, maybe every hour or two when I'm traveling and I'm away from the office, you know, every couple of hours or something, I turn the phone on to get messages. And then I'll return a call and keep it on the table and use the speakerphone, but I do not keep the phone on all the time. It's just too dangerous. And then there's another problem. People use cell phones in their cars. And they use cell phones in airplanes, and that is just really, you know, it just scares the hell out of me. Every time I land on a plane, the first thing to do, everybody in the plane takes off their cell phone. And you are being cooked. You are, because the aluminum shell of the plane doesn't allow the microwave radiation to get out. And so it's complete trouble. You've got an hour way up.
You're talking about on an airplane, right? Where it's
100 people with cell phones that are turned way up inside an enclosed space. That is crazy.
We have another question.
Okay, I also want to add that as far as Wi-Fi, that's even worse in your house. So when you're not using the Wi-Fi, and in particular at night when you go to sleep, turn the Wi-Fi off. Give your body a rest, because to get a good night's sleep and to rejuvenate your body is so important to your health. And if you have your Wi-Fi on, it's not possible. So Wi-Fi is even more important.
If you can connect to the internet with a cable, and I suggested before that all schools should connect to the internet with cables. They should not have Wi-Fi in a school. The Wi-Fi is damaging the health of the children, damaging their brains, so they get dumber and dumber every year. You know, we're doing it to ourselves. It's crazy. So it's time to stop.
I'll also mention that if you hook your computer up to cable, it's tremendously faster than Wi-Fi.
So they're actually slowing down the productivity of kids in schools and you at home when you're using Wi-Fi. Just like you can see what's happening tonight with this transmission. If they would hook up everything by wire, it would be so much faster. And isn't that really what this is all about, is trying to make it faster? Well, all I gotta do is hook it up to a wire and it's faster. And they won't tell you that.
What are we supposed to get rid of, the smart meter or the smartphone or both?
Are we supposed to get rid of the smart meter or the smartphone?
Is that correct?
Well, yes, all of it if you can. Now, you know, that's like telling somebody to pull a tooth, you know, to do away with your smartphone. Oh my God, that's not going to happen. Some people will do it. Absolutely get rid of the smart meter because the smart meter does nothing for you and it's dangerous. The smartphone at least provides you with some useful services. So what you need to do with the smartphone is use it sensibly. Don't keep it on. You know, women were putting their smartphone in their bra. And these women are now developing lung cancer. And men were keeping the cell phone in their pocket, and now they're developing testicular cancer and osteoporosis at that point.
One of the utilities had told me, and I don't remember which is which, I've asked twice, that I could not request to not have a smart meter. I think it was water. And now gas, the electric, which company is it? Gas now wants to put a smart meter, and upgrade my smart meter, and I've asked them if I have options, and they say no, and that was all they said. Can I push the issue?
Yes.
Can I protest a smart meter?
Do you have any suggestions on how we can prevent that,
well,
change that law or that rule?
I don't know what the laws are where you live, but here in Florida, if you want to have your smart meter removed, they will remove it, but they will charge you $13 a month for the privilege of not having one. I can't conceive that they don't allow you because it's really a matter of health. They don't recognize it, of course, but it is a matter of health. A lot of people now, up to about 5% of the population is now electromagnetically sensitive. In other words, when they're exposed to these radiations, it can screw them up. And I talked with one doctor recently, and he said it's a lot more than 5%. He says, as far as he's concerned, up to 40% of the patients that he sees are having at least some problem with the electromagnetic radiation, causing insomnia and other problems.
That was 40% of the doctor's patients are having problems with electromagnetic waves?
That's correct. Yeah, the doctor that I was talking to, he said 40% of his patients appear to have some electromagnetic component to their problems. And then there was another doctor I just read about recently who was taking very difficult chronic cases, such as chronic Lyme disease and cancer, and he's sending them off to Brazil, to a remote area of Brazil where there's no electromagnetic pollution, and they get well.
Hi, I was wondering, when you have all the smart meters and you have your cell phones and you've got all the Wi-Fi's from the neighborhood, does that increase, do you accumulate the radiation in you? Does it dissipate eventually, or is that it?
The answer is, in a lot of cases, yes. But what they're finding is that the damage is accumulative, and after you've had done a certain amount of damage, it becomes irreversible. So, irreversible damage.
Is there a way to measure that?
Well, yes, there are sophisticated tools to measure it, you know, you can measure a kid's IQ, for example. And we do measure the kids' IQ, and they're all dumb. We're the dumbest kids in the industrialized world.
How do we know if a tower is 5G or not?
How do we know if a tower is 5G or not?
Well, the 5G towers are going to be very different. Right now, there'll be a cell phone tower somewhere in your neighborhood. It's tall, it's high, been there for a while. The 5G antennas, you see, 5G has very high frequency and very low wavelength, and so it doesn't travel far. So the antennas have to be very close. Right now, we found that if you live within 1,200 feet of a cell phone tower, you're going to get sick, period. When I bought the house I'm living in, I made sure that I was not within 1,200 feet of a cell phone tower. And in fact, I rejected certain houses because of that. I even rejected an office space because of that. So you want to stay away from these things. But the problem is with the 5G, because it doesn't travel very far, you've got to have a cell phone tower right on top of you. So there's going to be a cell phone tower every 2 to 8 houses, something like that. You can have a cell phone tower on the left side your house. And we already know that you shouldn't be within 1,200 feet of the cell phone tower. That's going to have 30 feet. This presents a whole new set of problems.
Raymond, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay, Raymond? Raymond, I would just add one thing to that, okay?
Okay.
All right. Can everyone hear me without the mic? No, I'll put this over here. So, okay, where I work, they always do that. They always push the mic away, and it doesn't help. Okay, so regarding the 5G tower, or whether it's 4G or 5G, I experienced this in Kirkwood when I found the 5G pole next to the school. I contacted the city. I talked to the electrical director. He put me in touch with Verizon. I talked to their representative, and they said, that is a 5G pole, but 5G has not been turned on yet because we don't have the budget. It's transmitting 4G frequencies, okay? So they are using the 5G poles to put in 4G in the beginning, maybe, but then they can turn it on anytime, and you have no idea when it's going to go on. And unless you're in constant contact with the telecom company or your city government. And that's what I discovered.
Well, that's not an indication. The 4G is already very dangerous itself. It's already very dangerous, and we don't even have 5G yet.
Is there a particular frequency or anything else, or strength of the signal that would start to cause cancer or any other problems? Is there any maybe lower frequency that would be just fine?
We don't know, because you see, none of this has really been studied adequately. So we don't know. However, the indications are that the higher frequencies cause more damage. And of course, 5G is a very high frequency. And that's why some people think it's going to cause a lot more damage than 4G. But again, we don't have the proof. The studies have not been done, and you just don't know. And we know that microwave radiation is harmful. We've lived for decades and decades. When I grew up, we had radio, and we didn't have television. And we finally got television. So we've been living with these things for many decades now, and the indications are that the non-ionizing radiation from TV and radio goes through our body and doesn't do damage. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know, but it appears to be true. But with microwave radiation, we know that is fundamentally different, and that the microwave radiation does damage cells, damage DNA. So both in the U.S., so that's existing cell phone technology, but now they've already installed some of these 5G antennas. We're getting stories from Europe about 5G antennas already installed. And guess what? People are experiencing health problems almost immediately. Insomnia, miscarriage, memory problems, neurological issues, and widespread reports of annihilation of insect bird population. It doesn't get worse than that. What are we doing to ourselves? From Professor Trevor Marshall, who is the director of Autoimmunity Research Foundation, and he said, quote, allowing this technology to be used without proving its safety is reckless in the extreme, as the millimeter waves are known to have a profound effect on all parts of the human body. So we're affecting the brain, we're affecting the endocrine system, we're affecting calcium metabolism. This is what disease is. We're altering normal chemistry. That's the definition of disease. So these devices are causing disease, and the indications are that 5G, although we can't prove it, we don't have data, the indications are that 5G is far worse than the existing technology. And we already know that the existing technology is bad.
We have one more question, Raymond.
Yeah.
Hi, could you please tell us what nutrients would be valuable for us to take in the interim while we work to try to eliminate 5G in our state?
Did you hear that clearly, Raymond?
Could you repeat that?
What nutrients can we utilize? You really made everybody laugh, Raymond. Read your books, yes. Go to beyondhealth.com, right? And will you please let us know what nutrients on your website that we can utilize to stay healthy?
Well, the antioxidants are very important. Vitamin A, your B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin E. These are all very important, but the literature seems to indicate that people who are healthier are less affected by these electromagnetic fields. So the body has a way of compensating for them, and when you overload that by getting too much or by not supporting the chemistry properly, then you do more damage. So healthy people are going to be less affected than sick people, and the sick people will be made sicker and sicker from this radiation.
Okay,
Well,
thank you. Please, I hope everyone.
Okay, so I just want to explain something for those who asked the question about the distance and the penetration ability of 5G compared to 4G. Okay, no, I know Dr. Francis said that 5G, and he's repeating what the industry was telling people, okay? And that is what a lot of people are repeating, including the government, that the 5G signal does not travel far. And because of that, they have to plant hundreds or thousands of antenna in neighborhoods, okay, because it's weaker signal or it doesn't travel as far. Yeah, can you get the lights back there, someone? Okay, so what I was saying is that, okay, so the new 5G equipment, right, the technology is based on something called phased array, okay? On the left, the original, and the current 4G and predecessors, okay, the antennas they're radiating, or concentric radiating antenna. And they lose power as they go farther away. But the 5G is using an antenna that can use hundreds or thousands of antennas in the actual antenna. So it controls a beam. So it directs the signal to a device, okay? So what is happening with the 5G is that it's aiming at a device specifically that it's talking to. All right, so that's the difference between the two technologies. Now, whether or not 5G can travel a long distance or a short distance, as I said, you know, the industry has been saying that 5G will not go far, and that's why we have to put more in your neighborhood. However, I will tell you that the members of this group, we saw a video, and it was the CEO of Verizon himself saying, along with the technician, they were testing 5G from the top of a building, and they said, and they even showed us the data speed test right there on a computer, saying we're getting almost a gigabit per second. They were saying, and this is at 3,000 feet away. So the point is, CEO of Verizon and one of his technicians said 5G can go 3,000 feet. Yet the industry is telling us that it can only go a few hundred feet, so we have to put more poles in your neighborhoods. So that equates to what? Money, work for them, or more intrusive technology into your data or into your devices in your homes. It is possible that maybe the reason why they want to do it is because the more antennas in the neighborhood around your homes, the easier it is for them to access your devices. It's harder for them to put a transmitter 3,000 feet away. It's not going to hit every device in every home. That's most likely the case. But in this case, if they put one just down your street, it's more likely that it can do that. Okay, so that is the thing about the distance. When it comes to trees, I've heard also the idea that 5G will not penetrate through trees. That was another reason why they had to put them in, more in the neighborhoods. They wouldn't put them on the side of a tree because it won't go through, but I heard, no, it will penetrate trees. And this was from the same video that the CEO of Verizon stated, where his technician stated it can cut through trees. So there's conflicting information about what the capabilities are. Now, the big thing, and then I'm going to be quiet because, you know, the thing that concerns us and me and a lot of people is that because of the unproven safety, which there is none, most likely, and they're wanting to plant this in thousands of antennas everywhere. They don't know what it's going to do to us. They don't know what it's going to do to our children. They have no clue, unless they've done the testing and they're not telling us, and they know what it will do. Because in the Webster Times, I wrote an article a few weeks ago, and it was talking about the Kirkwood 5G pole. And I cited one technology used by the military called the active denial system. And what that is it is 5G frequency. It's one of the 5G frequencies that they use to repel protesters. And they used it over in Iraq and Afghanistan briefly, so they said. And basically, when you're hit with that beam, it feels like your skin is on fire. Even though they say it doesn't damage your cells, and then, you know, they turn it off and you're okay, right? That's what they say. Now, that will do that. And so the issue is that there's a lot going on with this technology, probably, that we're not even being told, but that is the case there regarding the types of antennas. So the big concern and the reason why I want to, we really, I think as a populace, as a city, we need to make our governments aware that they can't just lay down like little puppies and say, I'm sorry, our hands are tied, we can't do anything about it. Because, you know, I mean, you have to let people know you're not happy, because if you don't, they're just going to go along with the industry. And I had something in my PowerPoint, which I am not going to do now. If we have time, I can show you, but...
Let me also add that, because Daryl and I met with Mark Petty with Kirkwood Electric, and I asked him, well, how could they put up these poles in your yard? It's your property. And how can they trespass on your property? That's exactly it. They use the right of way, which is technically not your property, and they can do what they want with it. So that's how they will be putting cell phones in neighborhoods every few hundred feet, is by using the right of way land. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, Kathy, because Kathy found it, there is a website you can go to where you can put in your address, and it will tell you all the cell phones in your area.
Towers.
Yeah, I'm sorry, all the antennas in your area. Antennasearch.com. And it'll also tell you what is proposed. So it's really interesting to take a look at that.
I wanted to add that what you said. Like, I live in Kirkwood, and there are 15 towers and 105 or 110 antennas within 2 miles of my home. I live close to Manchester and Guyana. And you can tell day by day they're putting them up. They're putting them on the light posts. They're offering people money to put them on their homes so they don't have to put a pole every 200 feet in the neighborhood. These beautiful trees and where we live and all, they're using every way possible to get those antennas, and people are but someone asked the question, what can we do? Well, we wrote 9 of our representatives, our senators. The only one who came back with those 3.
came back with a little bit of information was Senator Roy Blunt. He said that he was overseeing he was in the Committee of Commerce, Transportation, and whatever that oversees the FCC, and that he will be monitoring the implementation of 5G and the safety for Missourians. So, actually, okay, wait. Okay, there's two sides to the coin. I was happy when I got that because I said at least someone is accepting some responsibility. Fine, then we could ask him. I actually wrote him back on his Facebook, said in this letter of July 23rd, which I have and I can copy you, you can stay in touch with us and we'll give you all the information you want. We've been studying this for months. I've personally been affected by the smart meter, 4G. I had to move out of my bedroom because of the effect on I've been fighting Kirkwood for 2.5 years. They won't take it back. All I want is my analog meter back, and they won't. I've met with everybody up. I've actually gone to the top state officials just to get my little analog meter back, and they won't give it to me. So I'm a victim of this. But anyway, I would suggest, and I ask, and that's why I put it on the flyer before you leave, please take the one that's closer to the corner of the table, and it says what Senator Roy Blunt's statement is. Write them on Facebook, write them on Twitter, say we're glad you're overseeing this. We want to know how you're going to monitor it and how you're going to let us know. We are very concerned. I'm concerned. If he gets 10,000 people saying I'm concerned, he's going to have to address it. We can't say he's a politician, he's bought off. We can't operate under that paradigm anymore. We have to stand up, like Dr. Francis said, and be an activist. Each one of us has to do something. That's how things are changing. Okay, we asked Deb Lavender. I asked Deb Lavender, could we put it on the ballot? Let me tell you what she told us. We were told we can put it on the ballot, but it's going to cost us $100,000 and 100,000 votes. Well, maybe if 100,000 of us each invested $1, that's not too much. It's a possibility.
Okay. All right. One thing that you can do that's really simple, and I don't know if any of you are internet savvy and watch what's going on, but just recently, Josh Del Sol, who's started with Take Back Your Power a couple years ago about smart meters, just aired on the internet free a multi-day summit called 5G Crisis Awareness and Accountability. Josh Del Sol is taking the lead on a national basis with a whole group of scientists and lawyers and you name it to find ways to fight 5G. And and they just completed the summit. It was free. At this point, if you want to have it, you need to either buy the permanent online access or buy a thumb drive, that you can play at any time at home or take wherever you want. They also have a book that you can buy. So it's a typical internet summit, but there's like 42 speakers that covering all aspects of this. That is so informative. It's if you want to know more about it, and you have a question, you're going to find the answer in the summit. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is part of what they're doing as far as mobilizing this country is they have a database set up on the back end that you put in your name and your address and zip code, and they will link that to all the local, state, and federal legislatures that represent you, and they will automatically send letters to everyone. So what's happened already is there's over 200,000 people who have signed up to the summit, and almost all of them, nearly 200,000, have already sent these mass mailings to their legislatures at the at the local, state, and federal level. So right now they're trying to get a massive campaign of letter writing going, and it's so easy. They do it for you. All you got to put in is your name and address and zip code. And what's interesting is you know that the letters are being received because, of course, I did it. I'm already getting many responses back at various levels, which, again, a lot of them are standard pre-written letters that are saying things that may or may not sound good, but we know they're not really taking action in our favor at this point. What's important right now is that we get as many letters out, for hundreds of thousands, hopefully into the millions, because the more letter writing that's done, we're going to get their attention. And so please check out this summit and find the way to sign up and send out these letters. It's so simple. You just it's something that you just have to do.
We need to follow the money here. Who is financing these antennas? Who's paying for that? Is it the Verizons of the world? Is our government paying for these antennas?
No, it's all financed by the telephone company, like Verizon, AT&T. Yes, it's all the cell phone companies. Right, and I should. Right, and I should also mention something we really didn't talk about before is this is actually a worldwide push by telecom companies all over the world. And part of this summit is interesting because they interview people from other countries like Australia, which is having the same issues we are, and they're mobilizing their effort, and they're sharing information with us about what they're doing, and it's working. And that's what Josh Josol is trying to do, is he's trying to engage people all over the world to come together, share information, and find out what works, and bring it to the people in the other countries who could use it. And in Europe, there are many countries and cities that are far ahead of us as far as putting in place moratoriums and stopping the progress of 4G because, I'm sorry, of 5G, because where it has been implemented and people got sick immediately, they stopped it. And so now as the word's getting out, more and more cities are stopping it. So actually, Europe is further along than us with the implementation and the efforts to stop it and place moratoriums until more scientific proof can be done about the extent of the dangers of it. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention is in the U.S., as we said, there's a lot of differences state to state on what position they're taking. There are certain states that are doing additional research. One, believe it or not, Louisiana, we know of for sure, has already put a statewide moratorium on 5G. There are other states that are looking at it, but haven't really done anything to support it. And then there are about 25 states, one of which is Missouri, that has actually, within the last couple of years, passed what I call a green light legislation that says to the telephone companies, we support whatever you want to do, just roll it out as fast as you can. We're not putting up any objections. So unfortunately, in Missouri, we can't even go directly to a moratorium because this legislation is already on the books. We actually have to go to go to Congress in Jefferson City, to the Utilities Committee, and with massive objections and concerns, and get them to overturn this legislation, because at this point, they're already giving, carte blanche to the telephone companies. And so when Kathy was talking about a moratorium, it's already too late for that. We got to go after this legislation and overturn it. And the other thing, I saw a map recently of all the cities in the country that are on a fast track for implementation, and actually Kansas City is on a fast track more so than St. Louis. And so we're hoping to find some contacts in Kansas City and coordinate with them, and hopefully get an effort started in Kansas City so that we have statewide emphasis on this and communication with our legislature.
Oh, yes. Yeah. One thing I actually remember where I read it, I was just skimming over some things about 5G, that some people, like weather forecasters and people, are concerned that what I read, and I can't tell you an exact site, but it was some site where they were talking about 5G. They were talking about how some weather forecasters and meteorologists are worried that the 5G could interfere with like the weather predicting satellites and of the different kind of radars they use to forecast the weather. I don't know if either of you have heard anything in regards to that, if that's for real.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I believe it's true.
Can I bring something up that would help everybody in the room? Okay, sure. You can fight, do I need this? You can fight against, I know somebody said that they were not able to get their smart meter removed. You can. I had it done several months ago. It's even on Ameren's website. You go to their website and you have to go through a lot of stuff to find it. In fact, I talked to an attorney who did some research for me, and he said they have to give you an opt-out. So they have to give you the opt-out to go back to an analog mechanical meter. They tell you, and it's on the website, I shouldn't say they tell you because the Ameren staff has no clue. But on the website it says they can charge you $150 to put back an analog meter, and they can charge you $45 per month to read that meter. Now, it's not going to happen. They didn't charge. Well, then when they showed up, in fact, the lady who put the smart meter in a year ago, June, she said, this isn't a smart meter, because I had said I don't want a smart meter put in, and then I got threatening letters they were going to cut off our power if I didn't allow this new meter, but they were saying it wasn't a smart meter. Well, then I found out it is a smart meter. They were lying, and the woman from Ameren that put it in, she told me that was her last day she was retiring. Well, guess what? Guess who came a year and several months later to remove that smart meter and put the analog meter? It's the same woman. I said, I thought you were retiring. And then she looks at me like, but and then she shows up, she's on a cell phone with her boss and then somebody else, and they were all mad that somebody had not come and made me sign a contract. And I said, look, I have been trying to call you people every day to get a manager of this area, because I didn't figure anybody was even going to show up to do this, because all I did was call the number on the Ameren bill, and in 3 days they'll come out and swap the meter out. It really is very easy, like an attorney told me. He says, you don't need an attorney to do this. This is all you have to do. You just call them and you place an order, and by golly, it happened. But then they showed up and they said, well, it's just so you know, it's $261 to swap out the meter. And I said, no, it's not. My attorney told me you can't, that it's $150. She goes, I don't care what your attorney said, it's $261. I said, no, it's on your website. You can't charge more than $150. We've had about 4 bills since. They've not charged anything to put the analog meter back in, and they're not charging a monthly meter reading fee either. And they're not charging us more for power. I think, I think our bill has gone down a little bit. So you can, all you have to do is call the number on your Ameren bill, tell them you want an analog meter put back on, and they'll do it. Hopefully you don't have to,
Yeah, let me clarify. You're absolutely right. Ameren does have an opt-out ability. Catherine's with Kirkwood Electric, and Kirkwood Electric hasn't, even though Ameren has been more flexible and agreeable with an opt-out, Kirkwood Electric so far has not. So we're still fighting Kirkwood Electric.
I'll join you in that. I've got a smart meter outside of my bedroom, and I'm not running from it, and so I will absolutely join you.
So if anyone else is in Kirkwood, Kirkwood Electric, and would like to do something about a smart meter, the more people that we can band together as a group to go against them and try to fight that, probably the better.
I wanted to make mention real quick before they close the meeting down.
Right, and we have.
There's several Facebook groups that everybody can join and start to hit that share button and the like button to spread the word to all your neighbors, your family, and friends, no matter how nuts you look. It's about the safety of your babies and them growing up in the future. Hashtag Stop 5G is one of them. There's also another Facebook group. You can look these up. All you got to do is type it in the search panel. 5G network, microwave radiation dangers, health problems. That's one of the other groups. There's also another one. It says it's called 5G microwave and radiation. So all you have to do is just basically type it up on Facebook and join those groups and then spread like wildfire. Get the word out. That's how we start, is by sharing it with our family, friends, and neighbors, and then move to the political arenas from there.
Yeah, what we're doing is bringing people together who are aware and knowledgeable and want to help spread the word so that they realize they're not alone and they're not crazy. And we are looking for volunteers to help us with this effort. We do want to have more events. We already have one event planned on September 25th at the Clayton Library on Maryland. So if you have friends who you would like to have come to a meeting, get information on our next meeting and have them show up. And that's what we're going to continue to do to spread the word, is have more meetings and try to formalize our efforts with people who want to be part of the group.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me. Please do what I've been doing and feed your birds, because the birds and the butterflies and the insects and the bees are very, very vulnerable to this. And the more you become in tune with nature, the better. And like Pat said, please tell everyone about our meeting on the 25th of this month at the Clayton Library. You could come 5 o'clock, 5:30. The meeting will start at 6, but you can come early if you'd like. And please tell your family and friends and bring as many people as you can. We really need lots of signatures and lots of activists. We really need help with this. Thank you. And God bless you all. And onward and upward, we're going to win.